Hi, listeners. This episode of Tell Me More, a hospitality data podcast, was recorded in early August in front of a live audience at the Hotel Data Conference in Nashville. We hope you enjoy it, and thanks for listening. Hello.
Hello.
Have a seat.
Hi, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
So remember, everybody, we need questions because we have not prepared a whole lot of advanced material, right? So we need questions.
Yeah.
Please.
Get on the app, ask questions. But like we start every episode, hello and welcome to Tell Me More, a hospitality data podcast.
Hello, Steph.
I'm your host, Stephanie Ricca. With me, as always, STR's Isaac Collazo, co-stars Jan Freitag.
Hey, Steph.
Hello, Steph.
Here we are for the second time back in front of our live studio audience, which I think 2 times means we're on tour, like we're on a tour.
Ooh, nice.
Right? Like
Merch
live.
table in the back.
Road trip? Okay.
I'm waiting for the T-shirt.
You know, I tried to get the T-shirt Canon approved, and the hotel said no.
Not safe.
Let's first hear from those of you in the room who listen to this podcast. All right. So for those of you who do not, who are new to the pod, Tell Me More is a monthly podcast. We've been around for 30 episodes. We just hit 30. Oh my goodness. It's built up a bit of a cult following, maybe. You know, we
People
get
are taking
together
pictures
monthly.
with me.
People they ask for Isaac's autograph because they think he's Jan. They ask Jan for his autograph because they think he's Isaac. You know, it's a whole thing. We get together, we unpack data. They disagree, they argue, they geek
In a good
out.
way.
We laugh a lot. Nobody's cried yet.
Yet.
Knock wood, nobody's cried yet. At the end of our live episode today, we will put up the QR code and you can subscribe, and we see when you do it. So it's like Santa's list. We
Please
know when
sign
you've
up
been.
and listen.
Yes, sign
the
up and
podcast.
listen. And you know what? If you are a member of Spotify, we also have a Spotify playlist because these guys talk about music a lot. And so we put all the songs on that Spotify playlist. If you look at them, you see like the data correlation through music. It's amazing. But
Isaac took a work trip to Lollapalooza just to curate the
Just to
music.
curate
just to curate the list,
Exactly.
it's a
So
work trip.
that's
It's a thing.
How much effort he
I didn't
puts
spend
into
that
it.
much, Amanda. It's okay. It's okay.
But let's get into this live episode. This year we have a little twist. So we're turning the tables on the audience. Most of this episode will be about you and your questions. So send them in, please. You know how to do it. No question too big or small. And listen, you know, obviously we love it when you applaud and laugh at our jokes, since usually we record in a bubble and it's just me pretending to laugh at their jokes so that it can be captured on the air. But, you know, here's the fun part. Whenever you hear one of the guys say the podcast buzz phrase, we want to hear some applause. So what is the buzz phrase?
Tell me more.
Me more. Let's try it. Say it.
Tell me more.
Okay, guys, big day today. I don't need you to recap. I think a lot of us might have data headaches after such a big day.
Can I just interrupt for something completely unrelated that has been on my mind for like 2 months? Because we are an award-winning podcast. And thanks
We won
to
an
Steph
award.
Ricca, we won an award, a gold medal, and we never got a medal. So I had medals made
That's hilarious.
for you
Oh my God! Look
and for
at
you and for the
this.
whole team in the back who are
Wow.
never getting
Thank you.
the sunshine. You guys all
The
get a medal
CoStar
too.
News team
CoStar News
puts
team,
together
you're all
this
awesome.
podcast.
So, best podcast ever. Gold
Ever.
medal 2025.
Ever?
Ever, great. Thank you.
Oh,
Wow.
Jan.
Thank you, Jan. That's
Enjoy.
great.
Look at that. Well, now the bar is set really high. So when everybody subscribes, we've got to give even more award-winning.
I'm wearing this on Broadway.
Oh,
As,
this
you
is
should,
gonna be
as
fun.
you should. Exactly.
Isaac's wearing a medal, his boots,
had a
and a
hat.
cowboy hat.
Could be.
Sorry, you were saying.
Yes.
I was saying, big day today. I have to acknowledge the moment. This morning, the collective gasp when we showed the new revised forecast down a little bit. Everyone in the room went,
that was so interesting. We live this, and we're like, yeah, it's going to be down. And for us, it's sort of normal. And then we heard the audience response. I'm like, oh, guess that's news.
What did you think?
Again, it's weird because we've been living this for the last month, really, since we started the forecasting process. So we kind of already expected it, and based on what we're seeing in the data. But yeah, it was really interesting to hear audibly, that, oh my God, it was kind of that kind of moment. So yeah, I didn't expect that. But I knew that it would be a shock to some folks, but then for most, it's not a shock, right?
Right.
Because we're seeing it in the data. And so it's pretty much a reflection of what's happening out there in the environment.
And somebody said to me, it almost felt like people were a little bit relieved, like, okay, it's not just me, let's all talk about it. So welcome to your therapy session.
Exactly.
Let's all talk about it. What we do on this podcast every episode is, we talk about the good, the bad, the fun, the ugly, and Isaac always gives us a few data points. Now, we told him, you can't go too hard.
Right.
We're tired.
But we still day of data.
But we want to know a little bit about July.
Yeah, we just, as you know, and Jan mentioned it this morning, that we finished processing the weekly stuff of July yesterday. Yesterday was Tuesday, right? I don't even know today's Wednesday. I don't even know what day
it came out yesterday.
It came out yesterday, right. So when we looked at the data, as you saw earlier, RevPAR was down 1.3%. That brings the year-to-date RevPAR to 0.4%. So it really had an impact on there. The last time we saw July RevPAR decrease was in 2009, excluding 2020, so just in the pandemic area. ADR was also flat or down at minus 0.2. That's the first decrease in 52 months. Year-to-date, RevPAR is 1.1%. And to me, it's important about that 1.1%, it's almost 2.5 points below the rate of inflation. And in fact, if you think about it that way, ADR has been below the rate of inflation for 19 of the past 24 months. And so that's going to continue putting pressure on margins. Demand was down, as you can imagine, down 0.2%. That's a second consecutive decrease. So year-to-date demand is up 0.1. And so that's just a quick on July. But I wanted to also focus on summer. And as many of us have been traveling, we've been seeing some of the data out there. In the last 72 days of summer, so the way we track it, we look at the Friday of Memorial Day weekend until last Saturday, so that's 72 days. And demand.
Wait, summer's over?
No, it's not over. It's only the first 72 days.
Oh.
Or it's not yet. It's almost over. It'll be over.
You got time.
It'll be over, that'd be the Labor Day holiday, right?
Oh.
So demand is down minus 0.5%. ADR is up slightly at 0.2%. And RevPAR is down 1.2% for this summer. Occupancy peaked the week of June 28th at 71.9%. That was down 1.7 points from last year's peak. And last year's peak was the week of July 19th when it hit 73.5%.
June 28th?
Yeah, June 28th was the peak
What
this
was
year.
happening then?
I didn't check on that. No, it wasn't Taylor
Jan's
Swift.
annual summer soiree
With Taylor Swift?
with Taylor Swift?
It could be.
Probably Taylor Swift.
So yes, a very different summer. This is the third summer in a row that's kind of pretty much flat. We've been watching that as well. So not a lot of movement, but this one's a little different, a little more on the downside than obviously on the upside. And so that's really a recap. We won't go into global numbers. We'll have a lot more in the next episode, but it's
a lot more to come.
Right.
Bit of a downer. Jan, you want to pep us up a little bit before we open the phone lines?
Sure.
Somebody laughed when I said, Jan, do you want to pep us up?
You had me for 25 minutes talking about that. Life is, it's bumpy out there. So I think we're going to continue to see that. It's a little bit shocking to see that the year-to-date data I showed was 0.8% for RevPAR, and you're saying it's 0.4%. It's cut in half just with 1 month's worth of data. So that doesn't instill any confidence, into the remainder. We're now getting into meeting season, so let's just. I talked to a few of you on some of the earnings calls. We're really, really bullish, and Adam talked about this morning. That there is still group demand, and that hopefully is going to save third quarter. So. Somebody said hope is not a strategy, but let's just assume
hope is not a strategy.
Hope is not a strategy.
That is going to come to fruition.
Dare I say that was a phrase coined on this podcast last month?
You said it. Tell me more.
No.
Tell me
Tell me
more.
more.
No.
I don't remember. Yeah.
Okay, they're listening.
Yeah, they're listening. But I think that explains, given what we just saw with July, really gives context to the forecast, right? That's again, as we're working through this and thinking about the forecast, we're seeing the July numbers. That's why, again, we weren't shocked when we saw the output, the final output for what you saw today, because we were seeing every week and how, because we really thought July would be much stronger, because the colleagues I was talking to and the folks I was presenting to said July is looking great, and it just never looked great. It never got there.
So maybe what makes you feel better is you're not alone.
Yeah.
We're all in this together like that. You know, RevPAR forecast is the industry, and you're part of that. So hopefully that makes you feel better.
Yes.
Kumbaya, maybe?
Yes.
Kumbaya.
Yes. Guys, the phone lines are, as they say, blowing up.
Oh, all
I
right.
think we
Let's
should
go.
get, operators are standing by. Remember to send in your questions. Now, our first question is from Jamie Lane at AirDNA. Maybe I should keep them anonymous. I don't know, but Isaac, do you want to take this question?
I know
Do you want-
Jamie. I really do know Jamie, and I think if you want to blame someone, just blame Jamie.
I guess we're not keeping questions anonymous.
No, I'm just joking, Jamie. You know that. We're just a good friend of mine. We've known Jamie for a very long time. So, Jamie, where are you? What question do you
we're
have?
gonna
Oh, wait a
make
minute.
him-
I see you there.
Oh,
Okay,
there
hey,
you are.
Jamie.
Okay, hey, Jamie.
Jamie, introduce yourself and tell us, audience, what you do and why
Yeah.
I blame you.
So Jamie Lane, I'm the chief economist at AirDNA. Prior to AirDNA, I was with CBRE, sort of forecasting the hotel industry for 10 years. So a lot of experience with the STR data set and also with what's going on in the short-term rental industry, which is pretty dynamic in its own realm today.
But
So I do have a question for you guys.
real
though.
quick.
Yeah.
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Oh yeah, I think I've listened to all 30 episodes, so love the show.
We appreciate
Yes.
you.
So-
We
still
need
still
a bell
waiting for my
or a
T-shirt.
car horn. So what's your question, Jamie?
Yeah, so Isaac, last year we presented together, right? And in our presentation, we sort of showed how as hotel demand was declining, especially in leisure markets, we were showing short-term rental demand actually increasing, especially for larger bedroom homes. And we sort of hypothesized that this was to help guests sort of save money, as it was most impactful on the lower hotel chain scales. So now, it's been a whole year since we presented, since we sort of got those findings, and uncertainties increased, and we've seen short-term rental demand for those large homes increase by 8% year over year in the first half of 2025. Now, question for both of you guys is how much do you think that's actually sort of contributing to the weak hotel performance that we're seeing so far this year?
I think it's contributing to a great extent. As you and I talked last night, and thank you as we collaborate with data, thank you for the question, I should also say that. What we've seen, and Jamie, you have to check me on the numbers if I get it wrong, but we've seen that total accommodations demand, when you put hotel demand with short-term rental demand, has risen about 6.6 million room nights June year to date. Of that 6.6 million, 90% has been in the short-term rental space. So I think it is taking and stealing some of that share, but it's also just a whole different, even Adam said it today, or you might have said it on stage, there's a shift, there's a way people are traveling that is different. And so whether it's stealing or just trying to do something different, being with family and friends, it's different. And I think it's contributing to the softness.
Yeah, maybe.
Uh-oh.
Or, I mean, you could
Or?
make the argument that the 5-bedroom customer is a luxury customer, and we continue to see pretty stout results on the very high end. And these could just be additional trips because they're finally saying, oh, we would never have taken a getaway with a whole extended family because it's too expensive in the hotel side. These trips didn't really exist, so we're not taking away room demand that didn't exist. These are just trips that sort of come because the short-term rental homes are a little bit larger and they can accommodate groups that were never hotel customers in the first place. Maybe, and it sounds like it's mostly on the higher end. If you're booking a 5, 6, 10 room bedroom, a house bedroom, you're willing to pay a little bit more. So you could argue that for the luxury piece, there's not really leakage.
But the retort would be, well, it didn't happen last year to the detriment to the same degree to the hotel industry as this year. So I would say no. I'd say yes. There's a part of that is true, but I also think this year is different because again, people are traveling. We see it on the airline side, even though airlines are down slightly. But
see what I deal with.
So, but no, I think I think it has to be taking some of the demand. I don't disagree about the luxury impact, but it didn't do it to that extent last year. Last year, looking at those numbers, yes. Short-term rentals were still up, but hotels were also still growing demand at that point.
The high-end traveler this year is richer than they were last year, and they feel okay.
There it is.
No, but that's what Adams shows, right? I mean, if you look at all the NASDAQ and all the stock market charts, they go up. And so therefore, you could argue there is additional pent-up demand from the luxury traveler that then chooses short-term rentals.
It could be, but I'm not going to say pent-up demand. But I understand there's a session. Has that session happened yet on short-term rentals that Jamie's presenting at, or did he already present? Jamie, did you already present?
Tomorrow
All right,
morning.
tomorrow morning, I'm sure Jamie will go into a lot more detail on the short-term side, as well as Claudia on the hotel side. And that will be, again, a much deeper dive into what we're seeing in that space. And to see if Jan's right or wrong.
Oh, that will be the ultimate question.
No, I mean,
I think you're wrong.
I mean, all I needed was it could be. That's all I'm looking for.
It could be, well, that's easy. It has to be yes or no.
So, you know what was great? Everybody who submitted a question is now terrified that a spotlight is going to shine on them, and they will have to ask it out loud. So, who should we put in the hot seat? Okay, here's a good one. All right, we've got one coming in from Ankur Randev at Highgate. Jan, do you want to take that one?
Highgate. Where are
see
you?
if he's out here.
Ankur.
Hey, guys.
There you are. Ankur, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, thank you. I'm on a very rich table surrounded by Expedia people. They just released their earnings. Blowout.
Tell us who you are and what you do. And then
So I'm with Highgate Hotels. My name is Ankur Randev. My question is, it's not a question, it's like, how do we think about these things? Stagflation themes are intensifying across, and we can all agree, and the favorite word of the day, I'll get to that, is US hegemony is pretty much bumpy as it relates to inbound travel. Travel is ubiquitous. You know what? We are sanguine about recovery. It always happens, especially in the light of the FX. Other currencies have gained across as it relates to dollar. How do you think about recovery in general this time around, considering this one is a little interesting? It has some geopolitical aspect to it, but it is recovery. It'll happen. Travel is fertile. But how do you guys think about this?
Well, I hate to quote Isaac Collazo, but in his presentation today, he said the recovery is over. So first of all, thank you for your question. And we're going to come back to you because you have some interesting exposure in Europe, and I would love to talk a little bit about how you think about the Americans going abroad. And we saw that number continues to go up. We saw the June number up 1.4%. But the recovery piece, I mean, chime in here. We are flat, for most, and the RevPAR forecast now is flat, slightly down. So is that recovery?
I was actually referring to more international inbound recovery.
The international inbound recovery.
Yeah.
So I think there are two arguments. One is FX, as we saw today, right? It's 10% cheaper to come to pay in euros for a hotel in the United States. That should entice some travelers. But then there's the other part that Adam hit on this morning, that Aaron talked with Terry Baker for an hour about, that the rhetoric from the administration is not necessarily welcoming, for the lack of a better term. And now you have new visa fees, and there's another visa fee for $15,000 I saw yesterday.
Awesome.
There's one that's like a welcome, give me $20 kind of fee.
$40 now.
$40?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's that. So that, I think, is all going to hinder, free flow of international international travelers coming in. I'm from Germany, as most of you know. You can tell by the accent. I was home a couple of weeks ago, and my friends are like, look, it's not super welcoming, to visit you right now. So, just we might sit this one out, and I'm very curious to see what that does for the World Cup next year.
And as we think about it, so if you look at the latest Oxford Economics tourism economics forecast for international inbound. It's expected to rise with the June release, like 4.3%, I remember correctly. And that gets us back to about 2023, 2022 levels. So they do expect, at least in on their side, looking at within their sentiment surveys and all the other work they're doing, they do expect it to come back. But again, it's anyone's guess. As we talked about in multiple sessions, I don't mean this in a bad way, but a tweak can change everything. And right, so it could, we could see it come back, or it could go even further down. We just don't know.
But how do you think about that as an owner? You have a lot of properties in Portugal specifically. Talk a little bit about your experience for the last 7-8 months or so with U.S. outbound to Portugal.
I mean, we've seen a very consistent increase of U.S. outbound. And again, what is very interesting is we've seen a lot of U.S. Fortune 500 companies plan their events further out. So it's very, very oxymoron of sorts here, because the point is we see what we see, but at the same time, there's very thematic aspects around our conversations, more around noise. But we're seeing very, very good traction for the US outbound into Portugal specifically. Of course, it's a great destination, high quality, vacation. But again,
high quality hotels you own.
A third of our demand is actually US.
Okay, so there's no slowdown that you can discern on that. That's
Guys, we should go. Portugal?
We should.
That'd be great. Go take it on the road.
Tell me more.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ankur. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Ankur. I can barely keep up. I feel like everyone in the audience has asked a question. Okay, here's another one from a friend of the pod. Isaac, you want to take?
Sure. Oh, it's Garine. Garine, where are you? From Sonesta. Hey, Garine.
Hey, Garine.
How are you?
Wow, this is bright.
Yeah. And we've got an introduce yourself and ask your question.
You pronounced my name perfectly. Thank you.
It took me how many years? You used to make fun of me, so okay.
Just a few years.
Just a few years.
Good afternoon. My name is Garine, and I'm with Sonesta International. I'm Chief Commercial Officer. And thank you for having us here.
I'm glad you're here.
I'm going to read my question because it's long, so just give me 1 second.
Uh-oh, it's
We
all
got to
right.
really listen.
Over the past few years, we've observed a significant shift in the distribution landscape, a trend that began even before the pandemic. Today, the traveler's booking journey increasingly blends across segments and channels. For example, a corporate traveler's path might start through GDS or booking tool, but also include touch points with OTAs, wholesale marketplaces, and third-party affiliates. Each of these channels carry a different cost structure and value proposition. Given the evolution of short-term rental, the anticipation of the distribution model changing, how do you consider all of these factors when you're projecting the future?
Whoa, I think thanks.
Thank you.
Projecting the future.
Yeah.
Well, again, as I think about it, that is just a method for selection, right? And then when we're forecasting, we're not looking at the method of a selection of a hotel, we're looking at the demand side. So from a forecasting perspective, I'm not considering what channel is going to be used to create the demand. We're just looking at that demand vis-a-vis GDP and all the other pieces that we're using, employment rate, et cetera. So for my side, again, from the forecasting side, that's not a criteria. I truly understand from a hotel side when you're budgeting and understanding where that business is coming from, yeah, it's an important criteria. But again, from our side, not used very much at this point, other than anecdotally thinking about it. Now, short-term rentals, that's totally different. We'll probably have to start thinking about that a little bit more and when we start projecting forecasts, because right now we're looking at only hotel demand when we're doing our forecast. But now that might be a different consideration. And also, we've been picking on short-term rentals right now, but we also should start considering cruises, because cruises are also doing very well, and use them somehow as an input or at least a benchmark against our forecast so that we can understand, okay, what's the impact of that?
I think it's interesting when you talk about distribution channels, you didn't mention the elephant in the room, right? Which is clearly, how do you get into the AI answering box, right? Like if you're looking for a hotel, for a stay, for a recommendation, as a leisure traveler, or maybe soon enough as a corporate traveler, and I think Amanda touched on it this morning on her panel, how do you get into that first box with Gemini or ChatGPT or so. On the AI panel this morning, Mercedes had a super interesting comment that I sort of hadn't internalized like that, but she said, AI, it's part of our search, but it's not part of our life yet. I think a lot of us are going to be a little bit more surprised when we get these results served to us, and we're like, oh, where does this come from? Because we're not yet sort of AI native, so to speak, like our kids will be. It's going to be very interesting to see how we will get away from Google and Google Search and the other search engines that you mentioned, and be AI first, and how do we get our search result, our hotel, into that answering box? So I don't have a good answer for that. I think these are early days. ChatGPT is 2.5 years old, and they're having version 5.0 come out. I mean, they're iterating so quickly. We have no idea what 2.5 years from now looks like, but I know that the brands are thinking that, and you're thinking that. How can we get into that AI answering box? I don't have a good answer for you. I think that is the elephant in the room. That is the question that we collectively are tackling.
Are you thinking that, Garine, at Sonesta?
We are. Content is absolutely key, and it's no longer the traditional content. It's content through videos, through the different social media channels that are really influencing bookings for our hotels. So that's a new space where we're really focusing on.
Mm-hmm. Really interesting, because when you think about booking channels, we've all come to know and trust the ones, right? Dare I say, Expedia, who's sponsoring this panel, is one that we all know and trust. But we know there's people who like to call and use the voice channel, right? There's people who know to go brand.com. AI is a whole new, like you mentioned, that whole fact-checking piece. We may not know necessarily where the source material comes from, but it'll be interesting to see the channels.
We'll have you back next year, and you can tell us exactly how to tackle this question.
We'll definitely follow up. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Garine.
So in the interest of time, gentlemen, I'm going to field the rest of our questions up here. So everybody, deep sigh of relief. Nobody else will have to stand up and have a spotlight shown in their face.
Another sigh of relief.
Here is a great one, because I know that this person is a listener. On a previous podcast episode,
Giveaway.
it was mentioned that 2019 was an anomaly. So when do we move away from comparing to 2019 and focusing on more recent years? 2019.
Yes, tell me more about that statement. Tell me more about that.
All right.
That's on you. I have nothing to say. Go ahead.
There was a guy who did a presentation today, and he talked about this. So when we were doing this work, there was a presentation earlier today that I did called Occupancy Stabilizing or something. I don't remember what it's called.
Were you not in the room?
I was in the room, but I don't remember the title. I couldn't remember that one.
Occupancy.
And the idea, as I was going through the work, and this actually I put in the podcast, which I forgot I had mentioned in the podcast. One of the ideas that struck me when I was looking at the long-term occupancy levels of the industry was how different 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 were in terms of occupancy and the growth. To give you some perspective, at the end of the Great Recession, 6 years after the end of the Great Recession, or from the start of the Great Recession, occupancy had reached a new peak. So think about that. It had gone from its trough to a peak. Well, right now we're 6 years out of the pandemic and we're actually going down. We didn't hit a new peak. And so I was telling Jan, we were just, we're like kids in the office, right? I run into his office, go, you got to see this, and this is what this, and then he runs into my office.
And Jan closes the door and turns the light off.
Actually, he does close the door. He always has that door closed. He doesn't want me there. And so, but.
Hint.
Let me answer the question. I should answer the question. But when it struck me, when you look at the occupancy, it looks like 19, it really was August of 2018 when the industry hit a peak on a 12-month moving average basis, that it was an anomaly, that we may never see that again. And I say may never, because you never say never, never. It may never, but that's what that comment was about. It was based on this analysis I was doing. And I just remember going to Jan, I said, wow, here we've been benchmarking in 19. We're in a different part of the cycle now. We're not in the recovery anymore. I think the recovery is over. But this occupancy level and that surge of demand coming out of the Great Recession was tremendous. And it just continued going up. And that's one of the charts. The other chart that we showed that was eye-opening was when you look at occupancy on a 12-month moving average basis, we really hit a flat or a flatness in the recovery way about 2 years ago. I think it was what I looked at. I forgot how many months ago, but it was sooner than this year. And that was another aha moment for me working with that analysis.
So I would never say that you're wrong, of course. But
you're gonna rip me on this one.
You are all talking to owners, right? And the owners are like, show me the charts. When was our last peak? I want that. And then you play Isaac's podcast, who's saying, well, it's not quite the peak or it's an anomaly, and the owner's like, yep, I hear that, and I want that. So I think to ask, that we're no longer benchmarking in 2019 is just, unfortunately, is not going to happen. We will do this internally. I think we will come up with the long run averages, and we're saying, well, maybe 2017 was a little bit better, sort of peak, or should be our benchmark, But your owners are going to say, excuse me, I underwrote 2019 numbers to go forward forever, and I have to make my debt service, and I need those results from you. So sorry to say, I think
that becomes the proxy for peak.
And I thought you were going to say, I told you so, because you told me a long time ago, why are you still looking at 2019? That's what I thought you were going to say.
Which is true, too.
Which is true.
So I want to know, these guys, it's like they think in charts. Do the rest of you do that too? Like they'll remember a chart from 3 years ago and describe it to me visually, and I'm just sitting there like, okay, I believe you. Do you all think in charts too?
You bet, right?
Yeah.
That's what you do, right? That's
yeah,
our
you
job.
think in
A
charts.
chart is like a good wine. It's like a good song. A good chart is just in the same level as good wine and music.
Oh, I like that.
Good chart.
So it's got ups and downs.
Yeah.
It's got tension.
It has an up.
It gets better with age.
It gets better with age, right? We look at
You
a lot of
want
those
it
charts,
to
right?
be increasing and increasing and getting better and better.
You go, that was really good.
But like when you say even a bad glass of wine is still a glass of wine.
Yeah. It's like
I don't know. My bad charts from 10 years ago, you don't want to chase those. That's I'm glad those are gone and forgotten.
All right, here's a great question. I love this one. What is one trend you believe the industry is underestimating for 2025 that will significantly affect hotel performance? Wow. One trend, one element, one factor that we're underestimating.
I don't know if it's underestimating. I think you are living this already, but access to labor, access to hourly labor, with the number in the workforce decelerating rapidly because of the shown in the chart that Adam Sachs did this morning. You are all living this already. So I don't think that you are surprised by it, but I think the cumulative impact on the US hotel industry is we're just not going to find enough people, or if we find them, we have to pay them a lot more, which is going to squeeze our margins.
Yeah, I'm thinking more on the marketing side. I think as an industry, and I've been thinking about this a lot actually, is that there's a whole group of buyers, consumers, I should say, that are shopping differently, and we're still kind of in the same boat the way we're selling hotels. And so I know, Garine, we can talk about this later, but this will be, I don't want to, I think there's a different way of shopping and buying that's happening. I see it in my children, how they shop and buy. We all do it with Amazon, but with hotels, we are very specific. You got to do this, you got to do that. I think that's going to be a longer term trend that people are becoming they want less friction in the process. I guess that's the easier way to say it. Mm-hmm. And so that's just something I've been thinking about. Yeah, as you can see, the idea is not fully formed, but it's something I've been just keep thinking as I go to festivals and things.
Well, that consumer confidence and spending piece is something that we have talked about on the podcast for many months. And Isaac was always everybody's spending. I think that's the underestimate, is the consumer spending piece. Yeah. I don't see it. I do not live in the rarefied air that these two first-class gentlemen live in, but that's, and you mentioned that payment idea. So on CoStar News Hotels earlier this week, Natalie on our team did a story on, those of us who shop online know the concept of paying incrementally, Klarna or ShopPay, of hotels doing that incremental payment, no interest, paying for your vacation that way. So.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And again, one of the idea that I'm also looking at is people are, you said something that triggered something in my mind about consumer spending. People are willing to pay for things. Again, as when you go to some of these big music festivals, especially when you're older, you're not going to be in the mosh pit out in the middle of the sun, right? You're just not. But you would be surprised of how much people are paying, especially for platinum experiences.
For the experience.
For the and if you think about Lollapalooza, and this is a data set that I want to look at, they sold out in an hour, and they were selling 115,000 tickets per day for the 4-day festival, and they sold out in an hour. So people are spending, and they're willing to spend, and there are many people staying on the VIP and platinum side and the other levels. They're staying in hotels, they're spending lots of money afterwards.
Yeah, but isn't that the bifurcation argument we've been having for 8 months now, right?
Bingo.
That the upper end is doing fine.
But there were also 18 to 35-year-olds that are not on that higher
Trust fund
end, right?
babies,
Yeah,
maybe.
with trust fund babies.
Maybe.
Or they might have saved.
I mean, the argument that I don't think we talked about today, is the resumption of student loan debt repayments, right? And that is what, $200, $300, $400 that people, used to say, oh, I don't have to pay it. Maybe I can put it towards an experience. Now suddenly that is taking out of my budget, and I don't have it anymore. And I think part of that is an incremental stay that we don't see on the lower end.
Another audience question. We saw a lot of gloom and doom in the forecast today, but there are always pockets that do well. I love how our audience is challenging you guys for the. Hear this one out. What markets, segments, or channels will see growth over the next 5 months, excluding luxury as an answer?
Oh, no. That's the answer. That's all we got.
All right, Matthew, we're not going to make you stand up if you're out there, but great question. Challenge
First of all,
them.
if we could see the future, we would not be here, right? You and I, if we knew what markets, we would not be here. We would be out on pina coladas.
Out on someone's yacht.
Someone's yacht. What I found is, even last week, before I went to Chicago, was in DuPage County and speaking with their CVB, but the whole Chicago market is doing very well. And I was surprised, so I asked a lot of questions because I couldn't figure out, because normally when I prepare for a presentation, I'm going, okay, it's going to be depressing, this market's going to be down, I have to say you're not as down as other markets, that kind of stuff, kind of framing it a little bit more positive.
How do you cushion the blow?
But in this case, everything was up, and I couldn't figure it out. In DuPage County, which, if you know, Chicago is west of the city, and those markets are doing well. And what I could surmise, it's that part of the country, for some reason, is seeing some business resurgence of some sort, either return to office. I didn't get the full answer, but it's just different. So there are pockets of optimism. There are markets that will still do well. I didn't see the top 25 Chicago market forecast we just released. I need to look at that. But Chicago was booming. It felt like being back in Chicago prior to the pandemic, walking the streets, and it wasn't the Lollapalooza crowd. It was family crowd, regular people.
Regular crowd.
Yeah, regular crowd on Michigan Avenue. So I thought it just felt exactly the same. So yeah, there's optimism.
Chicago was mentioned in several breakout sessions this morning about an unexpected overperformer.
Yeah, and I think we've talked since 2020 basically about the resurgence of San Francisco, and now we're finally there, and San Francisco is doing quite well. We just talked about, with Phil in my session, about the resurgence of downtown Class A office occupancy, or the deceleration in sublet space. The AI companies are flocking back to that area. If you're trying to rent an apartment, if you have a child, or if you live there, it's extremely expensive. People really, really flock back to that market. Everybody had always said, don't count San Francisco out. The hotel industry was bumpy, and now things are looking up quite nicely. And I think this is a little bit later recovery, just like Chicago. It took a little bit longer, but I think it's smooth sailing ahead for San Francisco.
Never paint with a broad brush, right?
And never say never. That's the key, right?
We are getting so many questions about World Cup next year.
Germany all the way, just saying.
Now, a very specific one that's coming in, which is great. Sorry. How did you factor World Cup into the 2026 forecast? Have you yet? Is it a work in progress?
In there,
because
but
the timeline
it's not as refined as we'd like it. In fact, we just had this conversation at lunch, didn't we? We were shaking our heads. It's very difficult right now to think it through, and I really. We need to really completely think it through because of that international component. And that's what I'm still trying to really process. We have data. We know how they've done in the past. But because of the current environment here, that's what's the difficult piece. So I'm going to dodge the question, say we're going to do a lot more work on it. That's on my agenda now after this, and really put a framework to how do we think it through, because it's not a normal World Cup. And
But it's fascinating, isn't it, when you think about the timeline of knowing when teams and matches are announced, which won't be until later in the year.
That to me is the key. So Robert Mandelbaum
And cities are prepared for it. Like, we know that
don't know
the
yet.
Germans who live in Chicago might get the German matches. This is real. Do you guys know this? There's some data.
I didn't know that. I didn't know.
Say one more time.
There is some thinking around how they schedule certain matches in certain cities.
Yeah, and that is
Based
my
on
point.
fan base.
If you get, Cameroon, that's a very different traveling public than, Brazil or Germany or Spain. And so without knowing that, it's really, really hard to say, how's Kansas City doing? How's New York City doing? New York City, is soccer ready already? They have a huge fan base international. They're going to be fine. A lot of locals are going to come. A lot of people want to come to New York City. No offense to Kansas City, but Kansas City is going to be tough. If I tell my German friends, first thing they have to ask, where is that? So they're going to have an education process, to the European or to the Asian or to the African nations where that team is playing. So I think it's really too early to tell, and that's not. I mean, it's a dodge, but it's not really a dodge because the team determines the travel, determines what the impact is on the hotel industry.
And then on my side, as I'm thinking about demand, what's a normal percentage of an international traveler to a World Cup? That's what I'm starting to think about. It's okay, what would be, how do I frame that? Forget the teams at this point. Say, is it 40, 60, 40% domestic, 60% international, or is it flipped, or is it something else? And then, yes, then you get into the city perspective. International likely higher in LA versus Kansas City, but it's a lot of unknowns. So my first job is really to figure out a framework of how we're going to think about it, because it's not forecasting as normal. This is a very different type of forecasting in this environment.
But I think what we can say is that it's going to be more of an ADR event. That we propose that for the night before, the night of the match, that there's going to be an ADR bump.
It's a question that we ask on the news team, people, whenever we travel, because we're interested too in how the different stories will play out. And I was in Miami earlier this year, and I asked some guys who were there from Brazil, what do you think in terms of the travel impact? Will people come? Because, this was earlier in the year, and you hear all about, nobody wants to come to America. And they looked at me and they're like, you're underestimating the power of a football fan, right? If your team is playing and you are in it and you can go, you will go. It does not matter what the political climate or the...
Assuming you can get a visa.
Assuming you can cross the hurdle.
What if?
But the desire is there.
Totally,
that is not dampening that sort of consumer travel confidence. Here's a fabulous question. What is the correlation of Isaac's shoe collection to the forecast?
What?
So let's see. He's wearing sneakers today. Does that mean And if
no,
he's wearing
there's no correlation that I'm aware of.
Louboutins,
I guess the brighter the shoe, the more optimistic I am. The darker the shoe, the more pessimistic.
The more pessimistic. Oh no! See, we got to keep Isaac happy. He was always our optimist.
I was until I sat next to Jan.
Right. It's just data.
It's just data, exactly.
It's just data. All right, that's a fun one. Okay.
That's crazy.
Ooh, okay. Let's find a good one here.
These are real questions.
If 2025 was all about wellness travel, will 2026 finally address revenue manager wellness? Like, can we get a nap room during budget season? A lot of you voted that one up. They want to know. I wish we could help you with that. Unfortunately, that is outside of the purview a little bit. Here's one that's more up your alley. Outlook on business transient, group, and leisure in 2026. All of them.
Well, you've seen the forecast. So, again, the forecast for 2026 is to see RevPAR rise and see a little shift in demand. So I do think we'll continue to see the return of business travel. Again, it's not going to get to that level that it was.
So it's not, let's just level set. Business transient is not 2% pre-pandemic levels.
No, based on just the data we have and looking at weekdays, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and looking at specifically a certain type of hotels like upscale hotels, that's where the biggest gap is in terms of occupancy. So I remember it was like either 6% or 4% in the PowerPoint we presented today, but that's where the biggest hole is. And I think that my hypothesis on that is that's why on a weekly basis we see such ups and downs, because again, we're not at that business transient isn't back to normal, and everything's still, not everything is reliant, but we're still more reliant on leisure transient than we were prior to the pandemic. And I think that causes a lot of fluctuation on a weekly basis.
Right.
And then school calendars and everything.
And Jan talked about event, like group, on the last episode of the podcast.
Yeah, so I think group this year is, I hate to come back to this word bumpy, but I think uncertainty that it was infused because of the tariff conversation. You don't know what your costs look like. One thing to cut is travel and group attendance. I think going forward into 2026, there's going to be a lot more clarity. Love it or hate it, but at least we know what our input costs are. So I think that will allow people to budget a little bit easier. I think Adam presented a GDP growth forecast that is, sort of healthy. And I think that then should drive some more incremental corporate transient demand. The big question is on the leisure side, how is unemployment faring? How is the American psyche of the American leisure consumer faring? But if the unemployment rate stays low and people maintain their jobs, then yeah, they're going to continue to go on vacation and spend on the hotel stay. Now, it is possible that they're shifting down, right, from upscale to upper mid-scale or from upper mid-scale to mid-scale. Sure, but at least we're going to see that demand. The question is just at what rate. I'm on the group side not super optimistic that the booking windows will elongate. I know that I talked to a lot of you about the booking windows being crushed, and you're seeing some things come in the quarter for the quarter, which doesn't help anybody. But the good thing is, and we had this conversation earlier with Priya from Sage about that, if your booking window is so short, then at least the room block that you're negotiating has very little wash, because the people who are booking it know exactly you have 78 salespeople and they're all going to show up, versus having a group that you book, I don't know, a year out, and you're saying, it's going to be 100-ish, and then you end up with 50 or with 40 or so. So that might be the upside of the short booking window, but I don't think that the booking window will elongate, and that doesn't help you in your planning at all, because obviously that means 90 days from now, 180 days from now, you have very little on the books, and that doesn't give you a lot of confidence when it comes to pricing. So I think corporate transient, I think we'll see a slight bump up. I think on the group side, we'll continue to see more certainty, and that should give incremental demand. On the leisure side, I think that's still a wild card.
Yeah, I mean, it depends.
But like,
experiences are still what things people will pay for. I think that it will be bumpy, but it's always been bumpy. Leisure's not a 365-day
and experiences are not all luxury.
Right. Experiences can be being outside for 10 hours a day.
In a tent.
No, not necessarily in a tent. Staying in a hotel room, but being outside. So
we don't benchmark tents yet.
I think don't underestimate experiences. Again, every time I think people will pay for experiences. Cruise lines are one of those experiences that people are paying for. So no, I think leisure will be, again, will it grow? That's the point. I think it's going to be steady. We'll not see incremental growth, right? Just be steady, maybe slightly up, maybe slightly down, but it'll still be there. It's not going away. That's my view.
This is positive. Okay, I'm going to grab onto this positivity, and we're going to...
That's positive?
Yeah, well, it is positive, because I think the forecasts are showing...
Something.
Yeah, I think right now, I mean, we do think, and Adam spoke about it, about the big, beautiful bill, the impact that potentially can have on the economy. And again, once, as he just said, once we get a little bit more certainty, it doesn't have to be a lot of certainty, it just needs a little bit more, and then people start feeling better about the future, and then they will keep spending.
One thing I am certain of, and it is that cocktails are a mere 5 minutes away. Yeah. So I think it is time to end. And, we're going to close this episode the way we always do. So long-time listeners of the pod, and by long time I mean 30 episodes, you know how we do this. I would like you each to share an interesting or fun metaphor of what you think the hotel industry compares to right now. A song, a destination, a food item.
Mine's not a song. I mean, mine's not a compares to today. Is that okay?
Whatever
Okay,
you
go.
want to
Just go.
do. Just go,
I
Isaac.
think what you're going to need,
Okay.
music is in my DNA. And I don't know how I ended up in data. I should have been in a band somewhere.
If
Or-
anyone wants Isaac to
Yeah,
play
I
the
don't
drums,
sing.
I don't know.
You're going to need a lot. My song,
Okay.
my metaphor is espresso.
By Sabrina Carpenter.
Because you're going to need a lot of espresso. It's going to be, so what is an espresso? Think of what it is. And this is what you need to think about for 26. Espresso's focused coffee. That's what you're going to think. You have to focus into what is it that you can deliver, what is it you do better than your competitors. So it's very focused, it's very concentrated, and it's full of energy. And that's what you're going to need. That's what I was thinking about when I saw Sabrina Carpenter, and I said, that's the song.
You said that's that me espresso.
Yeah, espresso. Exactly.
That's a great one. Jan,
So we have two boys, 7 and 9. We just got the new bikes, and for the first time, they have shifters, so they can shift gears, and they don't know yet how that works. And so I'm trying to teach them. We're driving down 12th Avenue. We live in the area here, and I asked them, what gear are you in? And they said third. And then they go up the hill, and I'm like, what gear are you in? Third. It's like, no, you have to shift. And I realized on the bike, I have to yell at them the whole time, shift, shift up, shift down. You're constantly shifting. So I take away for you for 2025 is keep shifting, keep adjusting.
It's the same
up
idea.
or down, just keep adjusting, keep shifting.
And we didn't rehearse, but we never talked what we were going to say. It actually works together. I mean, that's perfect. I'd never
because
do
you don't want to go careening down the hill with zero resistance.
Yes, I'm trying to teach them that too.
It all comes together. Isn't it fun to do this live?
That's great.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining
Thank
us.
you very much.
The reception is right outside.
Hi, I'm Davon Reed.
I'm Omari Head.
And I'm Chris Henry.
We're the hosts of the Next Gen and Lodging podcast. It's a monthly show in which we interview a new generation of hoteliers to get their insights into a variety of disciplines and topics, from finance to food and beverage and hotel operations. Listen to us on Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This episode of Tell Me More, a hospitality data podcast, is sponsored by Expedia Group. It was recorded on August 7th in front of a live audience at the Hotel Data Conference in Nashville, Tennessee. The episode was edited by Sean McCracken. Subscribe to this and all CoStar News Hotels podcasts wherever you like to listen, and find hotel industry news at costar.com/hotel news. Thank you.